Hey guys, it's Radhika here again. So today we're going to continue our talk of medical school prep. We're still on the undergraduate studies part. So last time I talked to you about undergraduate courses and kind of choosing those courses and how much your major matters. Today I want to talk to you about what I consider is probably the most important factor as an undergraduate applicant, and that would be your GPA. So what we'll discuss first today in today's video is how your medical schools would see your GPA and basically how they would convert your marks to get your GPA. And then secondly, I'm going to make a distinction between what your GPA is versus what your average is. And I'm going to show you that these two are not the same thing. So let's get started. So last time we talked about how important these factors are: the relevance of your major to medicine, the difficulty of your courses, the difficulty of your major, and the prestige of your university. And I told you, if you remember, that none of these things matter at all. So if you're asking me how important they are, not very much at all. Now, the one factor that is really, really important would be your GPA. Now, we all go to different institutions, we all take a variety of courses, and some schools have a different grading system than other schools do. And when thousands of applicants apply to the Canadian medical schools, they have to have a system of being able to take everyone's grades and kind of converting them into a system by which they're all standardized. So they have to take all this data and make it very, very meaningful. And there's a way you can figure out how they do this, and we'll introduce that. Now, before I really introduce that, what I want to tell you is that one of the key takeaway messages of this video is that you have to maintain a very high and very consistent GPA in order to be a strong candidate for medical school. The cutoffs are pretty severe, so you should become, and if you're not, you should become very aware of the medical schools that you're interested in and what kind of a GPA cutoff they're actually going to have by the time you apply. So let's get started. All right, so this is OMSAS 2016's grade conversion table. And you can get this from the OMSAS website. OMSAS stands for the Ontario Medical School Application Service. And this table, however, stays pretty much the same every year. Now, I've linked it in the description of this video, so if you want to check it out, just click on the link and it'll take you straight to this table. So what this table kind of shows you is how the marks that you get in school by your undergraduate institution are converted into the OMSAS value. So the OMSAS value is kind of indicated in that first column on the left there. Now, each of the other numeric columns, and they go from 1 to 9, indicate the grades that you receive as an undergraduate student, and then you find horizontally what line that grade corresponds to and the OMSAS value it'll have. So most Canadian institutions, undergraduate institutions, will use a percentile score. So if your school is one that gives you your marks in percentages, you want to look at column number 3. And for example, if I got 89% in a cell biology course that I took in second year, what I would do is I would find the 89, there it is, the range 85 to 89, look at it horizontally across and see that that translates to an OMSAS value of 3.9 out of a maximum of 4.0, okay? Now, if your institution doesn't use percentiles, it probably uses some sort of alphabetic grading system. So that would be through column number 7. This is the standard that most Canadian grade schools use too, where it goes from an A+ to an F. So again, same thing, you want to figure out what the grade is that you got in that class, and then just carry it out horizontally to get the OMSAS value. Now, if you don't know what kind of grading system your undergraduate institution uses, the tables at the bottom here kind of tell you which column to be looking at. So for example, if I went to York University, I would be using column number 9. Okay, so column number 9. So it seems pretty easy enough. Okay, now let's tell you how to make use of this table. So this table is going to be one of your best friends as an applicant to medical school. I'll tell you why. The same kind of grading or grade GPA adjustments, grade conversions that OMSAS does and sends off to your medical school, you can do all on your own. So you can see exactly how a medical school will view your GPA. Now, the scale is really important because it illustrates something if you want to be a strong applicant to medical school. So I'm going to tell you this very slowly. The table is arranged such that your GPA is skewed disproportionately. And I'll tell you exactly what I mean here. The GPA is skewed disproportionately to consistently reward high marks, and it's also skewed disproportionately to consistently punish low marks or any lapses. And so what I'm basically trying to say is that it's very unforgiving if you have lower grades. But on the flip side, it is extremely rewarding should you maintain high grades. And let's go through a few examples of this. Okay, so what I want to show you is if I went to an institution that used percentiles to give me a mark, here's how it would be converted into OMSAS. Let's say I achieved a 93% in my fourth year genetics course, which is a pretty good mark. So what I would do is take that 93%, find it under column 3, there it is, and then carry it out horizontally to figure out what that OMSAS value is. That's a 4.0. That means even though I didn't get 100% in this class, I didn't get a perfect mark. In terms of what the medical schools will see, I still got a 4.0 out of a 4.0. Basically, it's the equivalent of having a perfect score, okay? Now, I will only get a 4.0 if my mark in a certain course falls between 90 to 100%. Okay, let's continue this further so I can show you the disproportionality. Let's say I took a fourth year biochemistry course, X-ray crystallography and electron microscopy. And it was a really hard course. It was upper year biochem, and I tried my best, but you know what? I was only able to get an 83 on it. Now that 83, yes, is 10% lower than my 93, which allowed me to get a 4.0. So what is it going to give me this time? Well, I would find that 83, which lies in that range of 80 to 84%, carried out horizontally, and I see that I have a 3.7. Okay, well, so far, not so bad. Now, let's say I took a fourth year physics course just because I loved physics. And you know what? Maybe it wasn't such a great idea because I got a 71% on it. And in fourth year, I really don't want to get a 71%. Actually, I never want to get a 71%. So what I do, again, find that 71%. There it is. It lies in that 70 to 72 range. And I find the GPA. Now, it's worth 2.7 on the OMSAS scale. So you're probably wondering, what's the skew that Radhika is still talking about? Well, let me go through it. Let's say you got 100% in a course. It would have an OMSAS value of 4.0. Let's say you got 10% below that. You received a 10% drop. So you got 90% overall. You would still receive a 4.0. Now let's go down 10 more percent. So we went from 100 to 90, and now we're going in the same increment, okay, 80%. If you hit an 80%, your score is now a 3.7. So although it's the same percentage differential, 10%, you went down by 0.3%. Let's take that down even a further 10%. So from 80 to 70. So when we went from 90 to 80, we saw that the score went from 4.0 to 3.7. When we go from 80 to 70, again, just a 10% drop. I'm not going to drop 0.3% on the 0.3 in value on the OMSAS scale. Now, I actually dropped from a 3.7 at 80% to a 2.7 at 70%. Do you see that? Even though the percentile drop was the same, 10% in all of those scenarios, the actual OMSAS drop was a lot more. It was one whole unit from a 3.7 to a 2.7. And that's exactly how the scale is supposed to work. Medical schools want to consistently reward people who got high averages or high marks, and they want to consistently punish those people who got lower grades. And by they want to punish you, that's not what I mean, but they want to be able to say, you know what, we value academic excellence, and therefore if you've achieved certain levels of academic excellency, we'll reward you, in fact, by giving you a higher OMSAS value. So this is disproportionately skewed. And the reason I'm spending so much time going over this is because through my experience teaching and through being with Prep 101, what we've constantly realized is that this idea of not knowing how your medical schools will be viewing your MCAT, how your medical schools will be viewing your undergraduate marks is the most common knowledge deficit. A lot of students tend to think that they are very, very strong applicants to medical school because they have very high averages. However, that average means nothing when it's converted to the OMSAS value. Okay, so make sure that when you're applying, you take all of your grades that you know that the medical schools you're applying to will be considering, plot them down on an Excel table, convert each of them to the OMSAS value, and then try to figure out what kind of an average based on the OMSAS value conversion you really have. Okay, now the second part of this video is more about telling you that your GPA is not the same thing as your average. And I'm not talking about the conversions here. I'm talking about the formulas that are actually used to calculate these things. So your average, we know, is your mean average. It's calculated by the summation of all the individual marks that you got, and then dividing them by the number of entities that were used in that calculation. So let me show you. What we've got here is a table showing you the grades of 3 students, student 1, 2, and 3. And they've all taken 5 courses that are numbered 1 through 5, okay? And what we've given you is the percentage that they achieved in the column on the left, and the GPA that we calculated using the grade conversion table on the previous slide. Now, what I really want to show you here is, out of all 3 of these students, student 1 happens to be the one with the highest average, 90.2% of an average. And student 3 happens to be the one with the lowest average. But do you notice something here? Although student 3 has the lowest average, they happen to have the highest GPA. Now, which one is it that you think all the medical schools in Canada will consider? The GPA, not your average. And this is why it really matters. So student 1 consistently got very high grades, except in course 5, where despite the fact that they had a very high 90 and some mid-90s, they hit 172. Student 2 seems like they were hovering in the mid-80s range, okay, with one very big outlier, 195% there. Student 3 had no outliers. They were pretty much from 85 to 87 all throughout those 5 courses that they took. Now, student 1 got disproportionately punished for that 72%. It led to an OMSAS value of 2.7. So when they had 4s the whole way through, but 2.7, it hurt them so much that their average GPA was 3.7. Just because of that 2.7, regardless of how hard they worked in course 1, 2, 3, and 4, didn't matter. Now, student 2 did pretty much average 3.9, 3.7, 4.0, which is great, another 3.9, and another 3.7. So what we can see is despite them not having some of the amazing marks that we see that student 1 has, they still got a higher GPA, a 3.84 versus a 3.74. Now, student 3, though, stayed pretty much consistent, okay? 3.9s the whole way through. They didn't get a single 4.0, but they also did not get anything below 3.9. And what we find out is that this student was rewarded the best. Their GPA average turned out to be 3.90. Okay, and this is again because of the fact that the OMSAT scale is disproportionately skewed to consistently reward high scores and skewed, unfortunately, to punish any low or average scores. So again, I cannot stress this enough. Take all your grades that you've got up until now, put them down on an Excel table, convert them. Once you convert them, figure out what your average GPA stands at and try to modify whatever grades or whatever classes you may be having this semester, next year, and to make sure that not only are they as high as possible, make sure they are really consistent. Don't fall behind in any of your classes. Don't let a situation like course number 5 with 72% be one of the reasons that you're not the strongest applicant that you can be to medical school. So, my key takeaway messages for you from this video are then, figure out your mark, convert them to the OMSAS GPA, and think about where you stand. Second of all, remember that your GPA is not the same thing as your average. And last but not least, make sure your goal as an undergraduate student is to consistently have a high GPA that happens to be hovering around the same range in every single course. So I hope you found this video useful, and I hope the information is important to you. I'll see you next time. Bye.